All right. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention about collaborations, mixing, mastering, all of that stuff?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
Just treat people the way you want to be treated.
All right.
Respect others' crafts.
So don't
People work
touch,
hard.
don't touch crowded places
Don't
vocals.
touch my
Don't
vocals
touch crowded places
unless I
vocals.
approve them.
Thank you.
And if I send you my vocals, they're done. They don't need touched.
You heard it.
Unless you're mastering the final track, my vocals don't need touched. If I send them, I'm sending them right.
You heard it from the
And I
man
put in
himself.
time to make sure that they sound right to match your vibe or whatever you got going on. That's that.
All right. So let's talk about the album now. Leave it as it is, not how it was. Now, you released this March 4th?
Yes.
All right, March 4th.
I didn't know that was a question.
No, well, it was kind of like reassurance for me because I
Yeah.
didn't have that written down, but pretty much like you released the album, but I first want to ask about the reception of the album. How has been the reception since you dropped this project?
I'm humbled by the reception.
Oh, wow.
No, it's been cool. Like I said in the documentary, my goal when making music is to inspire people, and a lot of people were inspired by it, which is really cool. People appreciated the caliber of it, and I think it shocked a lot of people. Not only in the direction of it, but also in the quality of it. The value, the production value of it. But yeah, I haven't heard anything negative about it, which is cool.
I want to say I'm always like on my wife about, hey, you listen to Samson's stuff yet? Like I remember she was like, yeah, I didn't finish it yet, woo woo. And she's like I'm impressed. Like it sounds like a real project. And why would she say that? And just to
Oh no, this is your show. Go ahead.
well, I just want to say something because just honestly, a lot of people as Jehovah's Witnesses, like let's just be frank, as Jehovah's Witnesses, not too many people, like people make music and stuff like that, but honestly, you're the only person that I know who has had the drive, and it's not that people don't have the desire, but more so putting in the work to do certain things like get outside sources to provide instruments and things like that to their music, and doing some of the things you mentioned, how some things got you bossed up doing financing in your words in your words
Quoting lyrics.
like your lyrics, financing and things like that. And a lot of the music that we support doesn't sound like yours, not in terms of the style, but in quality. I'm talking about quality. And she's like, this sounds like a real project. Like it is a real project. Like it doesn't sound like it, but we don't hear music like this sounding this good quality wise from people in our sphere. I guess that's more of a personal thing, just to build off of what you were saying. People didn't expect that. I expected it because I know you, but hearing my wife saying like, "Oh, this sounds like a real joint."
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was always taught never to half behind something. So if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, and it might be, maybe it's like a condition or something, like it can get you into issues if you overdo things. But it's like you want to do it to the best of your ability, but sometimes you can overdo things, and I feel like it's like a trait in my family where we have certain things where it's like you do it and then you overdo it. But it's just like in our nature, it's like, okay, if we're going to do something, you can't do it halfway, And I knew back when we first started rapping in my basement, I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to actually be good at it. And I'm not going to, and I think I said this to you before, I'm not going to like be kind of good at it. Like I'm going to be proficient at it. And that was my mindset about it back then. And that's why it took me so long to put out music, because I'm like, I'm still half behind in it. All the throwaway stuff, the stuff that never came out, I'm like, it's not there yet. And that was part of what Summer Soon did for me. Even before that, the little mixtape where I was rapping over those other songs, that did that for me. As far as like, like I said about exercise, with music. And so that stuff gave me the refinement that I needed, where it's like, okay, I'm now proficient in these aspects enough where I can complete my ideas. And the other thing too is like, if I look at other people, they don't have the vision. And I think that's really the key, is I have the vision on how I want it to be as a final product, and the resources that are needed to get to that final product, I just have to find them, and then I can get to that final product. And then this can go into what you're asking about the pandemic. One of the things about the pandemic that actually benefited me with the album was I was able to find people who were looking for work because of the pandemic. Everything went virtually. People who are looking for work, who are outsourcing their talents, like the string players or a choir or whatever. These are people who are looking for work. All that stuff became way more accessible because of the pandemic. People were offering up their talents as a way so that they can make money. And I'm like, oh, this is exactly what I need and what I've always seen and what I've always wanted from my music way back when. And I wanted like this cinematic feel. And I always thought like, this is unattainable, really, until the pandemic. And I'm like, oh, people actually like offer this stuff that I've been dreaming about being on my music. So yeah, and like I said, that's all a part of like the vision about it. I knew what the final product was going to be before it got there. And I feel like a lot of people are just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And that's a part of the process, because I went through that too. But even when I was throwing stuff against the wall, I knew where I wanted to end up.
What was the idea behind the album?
What do you mean? Like
the general theme. If I was to get more specific, I would say the album title. Now, you did explain this on Instagram, but for people who don't use Instagram and things like that, what was the idea, the general theme?
So the idea behind the album basically boils down to control, and the idea of control and how obsessive we or me can get about it. When you grow up, you there's a point in your life that maybe nobody ever kind of warned you about, where all these like changes, like your circle is gonna change, you're gonna change, life is gonna change, your environment's gonna change. These are things that maybe a lot of people don't know are gonna happen until it happens, because when you're younger, it's like you have your world and it stays that way for a long time. And then it's like you hit a certain point in your life where it's like, oh, people start falling out with each other or whatever, your idea for your future doesn't really work out. Things aren't really how you want them to be. But there's that like, at least for me, that part of me then, not now, but like, and maybe still it lingers a little bit, but there was a part of me where it's like, man, if I just wish I could control these circumstances to be how they were. But the fact of the matter is you can never go back to how things were. So you can easily get stuck in life thinking about the past and nostalgia and all this stuff. Oh, it was so great at this time. And a lot of people had a big punch in the gut with the pandemic, because it's like, oh, things used to be this way. And, oh man, we used to meet at the Kingdom Hall and, stuff like that. Oh man, we used to go eat out, and, oh, I hate masks and all this stuff. And, everybody was just so stuck on how things were. And it's like, this is how it is now. The quicker that you can realize this is how it is now, the better you'll be in the future. So it's like, stop wasting time trying to hold on to this little crumb of something. You can meet somebody, some dude who is up in his age or whatever. He's like, yeah, back in my day, I used to be able to dunk on anybody. It ain't your day anymore. You're in a new time. Like you keep holding on to these little things or whatever. It's time to let them go. And that's a lesson that I had to learn. And it took me a long time to learn it. And like I said, there's still a resemblance of that in my life. There's things where you okay? Our friend Cool Hand, he currently aspirated. That means that fluid got into his lungs. He doesn't have COVID. At least I hope he doesn't. I'll find out in 4 days when I start getting symptoms.
Oh, snap. See, let me put my headphones back in. I'm sorry. You were like getting your bars off too. This is the difference between regular Hennessy and like this is like telling the truth. This is the difference between regular Hennessy and aged Hennessy. So yeah, leave it as it is, not how it was.
Yeah, so basically I just kept using a bunch of comparisons to explain what I'm saying. Basically, you have to get to a point in your life where you realize things aren't going to be the way that they were. And the quicker you realize that, the better off you'll be. And you need to stop holding on to your idea of how life should have turned out, because it's not that way.
Shout out to our brother Dustin. He's one of the people who had a different path in life that we probably never would have expected. We did an interview with him on the Cool Hand podcast from Mexico with love, and our homeboy, somebody that we grew up with, somebody who we was going to Eaton Park with and stuff like that. He ended up going to Mexico, and it was, I think, one of the best decisions of his life, and I'm sure he would say so too.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first big changes I feel in our dynamic of friends.
Yeah, we used to
like
joke Dustin ruined everything. Or what did we say? This is all Dustin's fault, because as soon as he moved away, things started changing, like one right after the other after that.
Shout out to Dustin. And he was one of the first big changes. He moved when he was 18. And that was a huge change. A lot of people move when they're 18, but he moved to a different country. He pretty much got a whole new different life. And that was a huge change. I would say yeah, that was a huge change for us. Just something so simple as a move, but it was big, and
Yeah, you don't expect your friend that you grew up with to end up moving to another country, but like if you look at the generations above us, is that the way? The generations before us, like if we look at our parents or our grandparents. And you hear the stories that they told, their circle was very different than how it was when they were younger. So the signs are all around us, but when you're young, you're not tuned into that kind of stuff. But that's the rite of passage in life, is that things are going to change, and things aren't going to be how you think they should be.
When would you say you started working on this album?
That's a difficult question to answer, because some of the songs are old and they predate before. But I would say actually saying, okay, now I'm gonna do this album. It was probably maybe 4 years ago. Because I was working on another album before I did this one, and I didn't feel like I had the skills or the resources to create the idea that I had for my first album. So I just started making a bunch of songs, and then I just got to a point where it was like, okay, this is the start of a different idea and a different album, and I'm going to pursue that. So I would say 4 years. I don't know if that's accurate. Like I'd have to look at the files on these songs or whatever. But I remember specifically a point in time where I'm like, okay, I'm going to work on a different album because the music that I was making was a different sound than what I wanted. My my first idea for an album, it wasn't really fitting, but I felt like it was its own thing. It was a lot more like lighter. I was making a lot lighter songs, a lot less dark music, and that kind of lends itself to the idea of the album, where I was starting to be more accepting of my circumstances. So the music was reflecting that. So I had the idea to kind of mesh it all together and make what it is.
Okay. And and so you said 4 years ago, and that kind of alludes to what I was thinking already, but I'll ask it anyway. So would you say that you've been working on this album 4 years consistently?
No. Like I would say the ideas for it maybe started 4 years ago, but not until the pandemic where it was like, okay, I'm going to finish this. That's when it kicked in. And it's like anytime I was working on music, if I wasn't working on somebody else's stuff, I was just refining the songs that I wanted to use for the album.
And I now want to talk about the work that was put into the album, which I know was a lot. Okay, the shades are coming.
Is this a good time for the shades?
Yeah,
I feel like it is.
This is your show. I want to talk about the work that was put into the album because there's songs that people may like. There's songs that people may not like. But at the end of the day, work was put into them. And a lot of work was put into them. I think about that. I was just at a concert yesterday, and this group was playing a slow song. And I got a little bored, but when I kind of got out of my own way and looked at the guy on the synths, the guy on the bass, the guy on the drums, and then the vocalist, I can see that they were doing a lot to create what was happening. And although it was a slow song and I got bored and it was a little long, there was a lot of work put into it. And that's what I really want to get into, is the work, because you dropped your documentary and it showed the work that was put into it. Phone calls. You had your sisters doing vocals, but your sisters have lives. Like you have two adult sisters and they have their own lives, right? So you have to get these people together and stuff like that. So I want to talk about the work that went into this album. Can you give a general overview of what went into making this album?
I mean, generally, production. I did the majority of the beats, so it's a like a back and forth between the production and my ideas for the vocals. A lot of songs, I'll get my little scratch idea in, and then other songs, I already know like what the direction is that I want to go in, lyrically or whatever. So, it's always the production first. Then I do the vocal stuff. And then once I get like a good foundation for all that, then I start to think, okay, where would other people fit in on this kind of stuff? And where would I even want other people to be in it? I like to listen to music with a lot of different vocals. But if I'm listening to an artist, I want to hear that artist. I don't want to hear a bunch of features. And also, like this being my first album, I want to make sure my idea is conveyed across. So other vocal stuff that I put in after the fact was kind of to just like enhance and make what I made sound better. So that's where like my sisters came in, where my cousin came in, and they just kind of enhanced the songs. I would say probably make them better. Not a probably, they did make the songs better. And then actually like for example, the song where my sisters are singing on, I listened back to the early version of that song, and like I liked it. Like I had the whole thing, I had the chorus done first, no verses yet, but I the chorus idea came first, and just listening back to the old version of it, I'm like, it sounds so flat without their vocals there. So they really like elevated the song, and it also lends itself, I think, into the themes of the album as well, having those extra vocals there. So yeah, that's just an example for that. But yeah, my process involves that's usually the order of my process. To do the production, write my vocals, do my lyrics or whatever, see where I can fit other people in my head, other production stuff. So like, I had a couple other producers on there, some other people who can maybe enhance my production. And then I start thinking about like orchestral arrangements. That part is generally after everything else, once I get all my vocals and stuff in there. But yeah, that's like a general idea of the process. And then of course, I usually when if I'm working on a song, I'm mixing along the way. So usually like my final mixes are pretty close to how like the rough version of the song sounds. I might like take a little break in between the song and once I have all my songs kind of where I like them, take a little break, and then I'll go back in, mix them, add extra effects or whatever, mix them so they're a little tighter, and then I take another break, and then I master the songs once everything's on there. So that's a general production album making process.
I want to talk about your collaborators under this subheading of this topic. What made you pick some of the people that you did when it comes to production or features? Let's say, for example, Silver Lining, one of my favorite tracks. You had that T Plus, and you saw him in the documentary.
Oh,
yeah. What brought you to think?
Him specifically?
Yeah. For example,
track record. I try to put, if I'm working with somebody on music, I have to trust them. Everything I do with that T Plus, I trust will come back better, or in a more interesting direction. So yeah, it's really just track record. I just trust that he'll come up with something cool, and I just listen to things, and generally I know where he'll feel most comfortable within my music, so I'll send him something. So yeah, for that song, I just felt like, and I wanted something to be in that bridge part. It was just going to originally be like a synth thing, and people can just like vibe out to it. But I'm like, I'm going to send it to him and see if he can do something cool with it. And he did something more than cool to it.
Shout out to that T Plus.
Yeah.
We also had co-production from Johnny Who. I say IBN, but IBN. I don't know how
to pronounce it either.
Yeah,
I usually say, in my head I say IBN N30, or I think I asked him one time, but I don't even know if he knows.
Yeah, I say IBN because from Kanye West, but
Ivan Jasper.
So when it comes to, I want to give some shine to your features and co-producers and stuff like that. So because they have something to do with this. So let's talk about Johnny Who and the part that he played. You see him in the documentary as well in his studio. Let's talk about his contribution to healing process.
Yeah, he produced the song completely. I didn't do anything. I didn't add any musical stuff to it. I messed with the arrangement a little bit so that it would fit what I had, but he did all the production. That was actually that is the first song that we completed together fully. I tried to do stuff to his music before, but it didn't really work out. But that was like the first song, and as I was working on it, and it wasn't like I was working on it for the album, but as I was working on it, I'm like, this song needs to be on the album. So yeah, he produced that song, and he produced it.
All right, now we have My Box of Content, another collaborator. You know what? Before that, IBN. Well, let's talk about the connection with him as well.
Yeah. So connection with him.
Yeah,
What do you mean? Like,
how did that collaboration come about?
yeah. So I've known him since I started actually like putting my music out to the public. I knew him from a internet forum way long time ago.
Nerd.
And you were on there too.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
You might have been the one to put me onto that website.
You put me on. You put me on. You put me on.
Anyways, so there was a couple people from there that kind of saw me develop as an artist. He was one of them. He wasn't even making music at that time. And actually, I think part of me doing what I did helped kind of motivate him to pursue his own like production. If I remember correctly, I remember me and him talking about that together. But anyways, like he really developed his own style. Like you can see his influences in his music, but like nobody that I know produces the way he produces, and he's real good with like the effects and like creating a texture and like a weird he can like put a good energy into like the effects on songs where it moves the song along. So like his co-production on two of the songs on the album, Be Alright and what's the other song's name? Awake. He really just kind of like put the bow on top of the songs and like added like cool transitional stuff. When you hear like glitchy stuff on the songs, that's him. He did some kind of cool stuff with my vocals too. Like a couple of the vocal delay throws was him. He kind of like did some weird stuff with my vocals, which was cool. On Awake, but on what's that other song? Be Alright. He had more of a hand on the production itself, like the drums, the percussion. That's him. And you know that was like a back and forth. But he's another one like that T plus. I know if I send him something, he's gonna make it dope, and he'll make it better. So it's just like a people I trust. I have no doubt that he'll. And then he did the remix, one of the remixes. So did Johnny Who, and so did that T plus. They did the remixes on the Summer Soon Redux, which in ways was like a foreshadowing of them being a part of the album. So yeah, that was the IBN contributions and to those parts of the songs.
Shout out to IBN, that T plus Johnny Who. Now, Chlorophyll Collins, he was on the album, right?
Yeah, he did. Man, I can't remember my own songs' names. It was originally called Find. It's track 3. Now I forget what it's called.
Let It Be.
Let It Be. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Let It Be. He produced that song completely.
Shout out to Big Chlorophyll Collins. And then when it comes to the features, now we talked about that T plus, and now we saw Victoria, who made an appearance on the Billie Eilish cover that you guys did, and she talks about that on the Cool Hand podcast, our interview. You could check that interview out. It's from about a year ago, Victoria's workshop. She talks about her artwork, working with Crowded Places on the Somewhere Soon artwork, and also her contribution to the Billie Eilish cover. So check that out on the Cool Hand podcast YouTube page. But anyway, she made another appearance on this album. Now, how did that come about? Because this is interesting to me, especially watching the documentary.
Yeah, so like I said with everybody else, track record people I can trust. We made the Billie Eilish song, and she knocked it out the park. She did my artwork. I think after the Billie Eilish song was like, I don't know if I told her, but I knew in my head, I'm like, you're gonna be on my album. I'll find a place for you on my album because I like the way that we sound together. So from that moment, when we finished that song and what she did to it and how she came back with it, I was like, I have to have you on my album. And to me, she's just a staple to my sound now at this point. So I had to incorporate what she has done before onto what I'm doing now, but I wanted to do it in an original sense, obviously, because it's not a cover of the song that she's on. So yeah, so that came about. I had that song done. That's probably the oldest song on the album. That song was supposed to be on my first album. I know you were talking about how you wanted to do track breakdowns, so I don't know how much you want me to leave for when you actually, if you're going to still do that.
If we get redundant, that's okay.
Okay. So yeah, I that's the oldest song. I sent it to her, and I actually sent her La La Land as well. And she didn't realize that La La Land was in the folder. She just heard my Box of Content, and she loved it. And then I told her like the parts that I wanted her to sing on, and she was already singing those parts before I even asked her what parts I wanted her to do it on. So yeah, that's how it came about. I sent it to her, and she really liked the song. I was kind of surprised that she liked it that much. And yeah, then it became what it is.
This one's special because I mentioned in my reaction video, and I also, it's apparent in the documentary that she was recording off the iPhone headphone microphone. So it's not a bad microphone, you know. At the end
it's
of the
really
day.
good.
So, but what was the process like when it comes to whether it was easy or difficult? What was it like receiving those vocals and mixing them and mastering? You know, the engineer stuff.
I wish I had another pair of glasses to put on top of these ones. Because this is what separates the boys from the men.
Talk that talk.
No, the iPhone is a great quality microphone, but often people make like a joke if something sounds bad on a song. It's like, oh, what, they record that on the iPhone? Because if you don't know what you're doing, you can jack it up. And it wasn't the easiest thing. It's never easy for me to mix anybody else's vocals, period, because I'm so used to doing my own. So like having to figure out how to make them work with what I'm doing, but also not like making myself shine over them because I know how to control my vocals compared to somebody else's. So also like giving them their proper place in the song. So she recorded it well. She I think she may have like put a blanket over herself and sang it into the phone. Oh no, I'm thinking of the Billie Eilish thing. I think the other one, she just recorded it into like a quiet room. But I could be wrong. She can fact check me if she watches this.
We'll fact check you live.
I think in the documentary she was in her room. But anyways, yeah, like I said, you can have like a good source, but you have to know what you're doing with it. Like it's a quality mic, but there was issues. There was still noise, even though she recorded in a quiet room. And then when you're mixing, eventually all the bad stuff is going to come up in a song, you know, whether you're using compression or whatever. So the negative parts of a recording are going to be even worse on an iPhone because they're a lot more sensitive. So you have room noise, you have static. So I had to work with that, and I had to basically remove all that. But like if you don't know what you're doing on how to remove noise, you can destroy the vocal. And I wanted her stuff to sound clear and like tickling your ear. So it wasn't easy because even though I mixed her vocals before, it's a different production, so it sounds different. It's a different environment, and then I had to, you know, deal with the things with the noise or whatever. It gives hope, I guess, to like you said, like in your thing, like you don't really need expensive stuff, but if you don't know what you're doing with what you got, then it's still going to sound bad. So.
And just to double back on what we were talking about. Yeah, she didn't have a blanket. You're pulling up the documentary right now.
I think in the Billie Eilish, when we did the Billie Eilish cover, she went under a blanket to record it, I think.
So yeah, it looks like they're just in a quiet room doing it.
Yeah, for the album she did.
On
did
this
it
one.
different, I guess.
So, and lastly, I don't know if this is lastly, regarding collaborators, you did have some outside people, which we can talk about a little later, doing strings and instrumentation and the choir. But direct collaborator was your sisters, right? So, I don't want to ask how did that come about, but what made you think, oh, they can do this, or maybe they can handle this part of a song, and so on.
I think when Summer Soon came out, they made like a little salty remark because my little sister was on there and they weren't. So I was like, all right, I'll try to figure out a way to put them on something in the future. And I felt like this would work. You know, I thought about my little sister first for the song. Well, I wanted a female voice to bring with mine, but I wanted like a lighter voice. And like I said, I sent that song to my cousin. I sent it to Victoria as well, but she didn't notice it was in the folder. She just saw my box of content. So I'm like, all right. So I was like, oh, maybe they can do something to it. So I was originally thinking of my little sister because she did Summer Soon with me, and I really liked how that sounded. It had like a nice element to it. So I look at La La Land as like the sister song to Summer Soon in some ways, just because of that. So I had the idea when I heard it, and I'm like, it would be cool if there was just some extra vocals on there, because like I said, I had the chorus for that song already done, and I thought it would be cool to have some extra female vocals on that part. And I know that they wanted to be a part of the a song, and it's kind of like it's an easy thing. Like, you don't need vocal chops, and it's not like they wouldn't be able to sing, if they didn't put forth the time or whatever. But you don't need like vocal chops to be able to sing that kind of song. So and it fit, and it was fun. We had fun doing it too. It was nice.
Shout out to Crowded Places, putting the family on, putting his people on. I think it was really nice, and it really contributed to the documentary. Before I move on, were there any other direct collaborators that I missed?
Just the tears of all my ops.
You have I'm just going to remind you, rappers, you have zero ops. Zero ops. Now, I want to talk about, I keep referencing this documentary. What is this documentary we're talking about? Like,
what is this documentary?
What are we talking about?
What are we talking about?
I want to talk about the documentary now, because I got to give you your props. You know what I mean? You're my dog. I make fun of you all the time. Yo.
I'm humbled.
You're my dog. I make fun of you all the time. Roast you in many different ways, and I get it back, but you got to give it up when you have to, right? So the one thing that I admire about you, and this sometimes it pushes me sometimes, because what you were talking about earlier, and your whole family does this, like, you just have to do it to the best of your ability, stuff like that. Like, this setup that we have, it might not look like much. Like, I'm gonna just be honest, like the camera angle and everything, but we had to move our whole apartment around just to make it look like crap. You know what I mean? Like, we did a lot to make it look like crap here. So
it doesn't look like crap.
To me it does. But like, there's a lot of work that you put in going back to Somewhere Soon. Go watch the Somewhere Soon music video, the visuals. Crowded Places did that. He already mentioned a lot of the production, most of the production on his album. Crowded Places did that. The mixing and mastering, Crowded Places did that. The documentary, Crowded Places did that.
Go on.
I'm feeding his rapper ego now. Let me just keep feeding the ego.
Continue.
But this is the thing that I have to say that I admire about you on some real talk. Like, you can't, even if we were still this is the thing. When we were
come off on real talk.
this is the what's up with the bull? Like, when we was beefing, like, I might have had a problem with something that you did or something. You know what I mean? Something that I had a problem with. You know what I mean? And Samson's perfect, by the way. He didn't do anything bad. It was me. All right.
Don't play with me.
No, I'm not playing with you because I'm over here like, you know, I'm not trying to.
Perfect.
I'm just saying, like,
Rephrase that.
On camera, Crowded Places is perfect.
No.
Anyway, what I'm saying is, like, I can have a problem with a cat. The point is, I'll never deny what you do and how you do it. That's the point. That is my point. I was about to do a whole roundabout thing to say you do what you do and you do it well. Mm-hmm. But
thank you.
Sure. But let me get to the point because I'm long-winded. You do a lot of things and you are multifaceted. You did this documentary and you give me credit, and that's nice. Thank you. You give me credit for my contribution, but you put that documentary together. That's the thing. I recorded stuff, but anybody could press record on something. You know what I mean? I'm not a cinematographer or a photographer. I don't know all this white balance and ISO and all that triangular stuff y'all be doing in photography and stuff. You can press record on a camera, but to make it and look and sound like something, you're talking about the narrative and the things that we recorded and stuff like that. You did that. I didn't really do that. I pressed record on a camera. That's cool. Maybe you couldn't have done it without me. But you put that thing together and made it look proper. You edited that thing and made it look nice. You made it entertaining all at the same time. So enough of me giving you props.
Am I allowed to retort?
Go ahead.
See, here's the thing, and I've already explained this to you before. The narrative was created by what you recorded. Now, I don't care if you know white balance or ISO or whatever, but when you are putting a camera in front of somebody's face, your ability to bring out what they need to say rests on you. You're I don't know what the actual term for it is, but that's why I say you deserve more credit than you give yourself. Because if I were to just film myself that day, I wouldn't be saying all that stuff that I was saying in whatever way, because like I said, that was the foundation. That became the foundation of the documentary. The documentary was just an idea before you took your camera out and started asking me questions and filming me in impromptu and, you know, while we were in Ohio. So that's why I say, and it doesn't rest on the camera as a object. It rests on you as a personality or whatever. You brought that out. You created that narrative. You pulled it out of thin air. So that's why I'm saying it's your content. There wouldn't have been a documentary without that footage. I would have scrapped the idea because there was no narrative before that. I just had footage that I filmed myself doing stuff, but there was no narrative. So that's my retort to that. So you get more credit than you deserve. That's why it's on the Cool Hand Podcast. You can watch it now. The most viewed video on the Cool Hand Podcast.
Put your glasses on.
Oh, yeah. I was too busy giving out compliments. I forgot when to transition into my rapper mode.
My point was that you do, okay, narrative, all that stuff.
I think you should move on now. Stop trying to retort my compliment.
My point was that you... What's my favorite thing to quote by Kanye West on the podcast? Do the rap in the track, triple double, no assist. You do.
Okay, in the music, yeah, but we're talking about
even on the documentary. I don't care. Let me talk. Where's my glasses at? Come on.
There man. You go, podcaster.
Listen. I'm done. These don't fit me. My point is, like, you kept just quit distracting me. I want to talk about the documentary. What was the idea? Now, I remember some things about like the conception of the idea, but I want to hear your account What made you want to do a documentary and to record these things and so on?
I don't know, honestly.
It was J. Cole. Remember the Dreamville
Oh,
Because I that was a significant time because I remember you.
yeah. That actually made me want to finish it. Like I was filming myself recording way before that. But you're right. I forgot about that. Yeah, that documentary made me want to do it because it was cool. Because it kind of like, it had like a narrative to it, but it was very like free flowing. Like there was just like clips of stuff, and I don't know. I just really like that. So yeah. That was a big influence. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I remember you started going hard. Now I didn't know you were already recording things, but you can see from the documentary that you've been recording. I
Hmm.
didn't know that, but I remember you started like going hard, talking about like, you know what, I'm gonna do a documentary.
Yeah, after I saw that, I'm like, okay, I need to finish this. I need to make it into something.
Yeah, and I thought you were not. I didn't think you were just talking, but I'm like, oh, okay, like maybe he'll like do something like 10 minutes. Like J. Cole's was, it was like less than a half an hour. I can't
Hmm.
remember how long it was, but I'm thinking like maybe something short.
That's what I wanted it to be.
You put out, was it 30 something minutes, almost 40?
I don't know.
What was that like? And I just want to spend a little bit of time on that. The process of making the documentary, because as you can see, you didn't have full control over what was being recorded. So you did reach out to other people and collaborators on recording their parts. What was that like?
Oh yeah, it was cool. I think most of it I filmed except a couple things. Like Victoria's part, I told her, if she could just get some footage of her recording it. And uh, I'm trying to think what else. I think everything else I filmed besides the stuff you did in Ohio. I think her. Oh, and then the string players, they did their parts, but that was part of their like the package. It wasn't like anything special.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. Like you could pay extra to have them film themselves,
Hmm.
performing the stuff, which was cool. So yeah, I took advantage of that.
Did that include the choir too? Like, did you have to?
That was included in the price. Yeah. But I asked. They probably wouldn't have done it if I didn't ask them beforehand. But yeah, it was included in it because I had to sign a contract involving it.
Interesting. Okay, so how do you feel, just real briefly, the reception of the documentary? Like, how did you feel putting that together, putting it out, and people actually watching it? Like you said, it's the highest viewed video on my page.
Yes, and it'll stay that way until this video
Talk
comes
that,
out.
talk that talk.
Until this video comes out, it'll be the highest played cool hand video, and ain't none of y'all who are trying to put little bots in to play your videos. It ain't gonna get any bigger. I promise you.
Push that knife.
It's gonna stay on the top until this one drops. I'm sorry, I'm just too nice. No,
Push that knife.
let me take these off because I'm gonna be humble again. Honestly, when the documentary was done, I was a little apprehensive about releasing it because I didn't want it to come off. I didn't have enough self-awareness of it as a whole when it was done, because I didn't want it to come off as like self-indulgent or like, hey, look at me, look at how cool I am, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. I didn't want it to come off as like I'm stunting on people or whatever, because I have the vision to do things that they can't do. That was a flex. Everything else is humility. No, okay, backtracking. I didn't want I didn't want it to come off as me drawing attention to myself and not even as much like attention to the music. I just wanted it to be something that would inspire people. And I said that in the documentary too. Anything I do, I just want to like motivate people and kind of like put a fire in their back a little bit. So that was the whole purpose of the documentary. And I was concerned because it was about me and what I'm doing. I didn't want it to come off as like, oh, hey, look at me, you know, which is part of the reason why I had the people who I was working with put their stuff in it too. I forgot about 3D and his drums. He was another collaborator.
Yo, forget him right now. Nah, forget. Hey, we'll talk about him. Yeah, shout out to 3D.
He's a collaborator. We can talk about him on the track breakdown. Yeah. So, yeah, the documentary was more about the process and like people who are going through their creative process and finding their ways and working through it or whatever. It wasn't so much about like my album because the documentary didn't lend itself to anything about what the album was about. It's about the process. That's what it is. And for me, like I like seeing other people's, processes, their behind the scenes stuff, just like with the J. Cole documentary. It's cool. You see the behind the scenes on how things are made, and then it helps motivate you. I remember you were saying when you saw it, it kind of made you want to rap again or whatever. I think if I'm quoting you correctly.
Probably.
Yeah, I feel like you said that. So I feel like that's the purpose of it. Yeah, and I was just like really nervous before putting it out. Like, man, I don't want people to look at it the wrong way. Like, like I'm trying to pat myself on the back. But people didn't take it that way, fortunately. At least they didn't make it known to me that they did. But, I try to source my stuff through people who are going to be honest with me before it goes out to the world. So like my family, I played it for them beforehand, and I expressed my concerns about how it can be perceived, and they took it the way I intended it to be. So that kind of gave me the extra confidence, like, okay, I can put it out, and it won't become a negative thing.
Yeah, I think it was pretty transparent that it wasn't about, look at me, I'm putting out an album, I got a choir. No, it was inspirational, and you can see that in the comments too. Like, people are having comments. I thought it was beautiful. You sent it to me like I don't like just a little quick anecdote. He sent it to me like, what do you think of this? I don't want that type of pressure. Like I'll critique my own stuff. I don't want to critique your stuff. You know what? I'm gonna just be honest. Like I'm not Simon Cowell on what's it called, American Idol. Like that. I'm not that type of cat. Like I can have my opinion, but like I gave an opinion on something super small when you were still putting it together. I remember something super small that you didn't even care about. But he sent it to me and I watched it, right? And I'm like, this is beautiful. Like I'm like, and I was surprised, like I was watching it for the first time, and I don't even think I had any critiques, but I'm just like, this is great. Like and I think it's transparent enough to show that people can see that this is the process, not I'm so cool. Mm-hmm. And I think that was clear to the majority of people. I'm going to say majority because there might be a few haters who...
Yeah, and they won't say it to my face.
Say it to his face. If Crowded Places has any ops, which he has...
If any of you ops got a problem with what I do and what I say, feel free to reach out to me.
Nobody's going to reach out to you.
They never will.
You have no ops. Oh my goodness. No. Most of these dudes have no ops, zero ops. Everybody wants to have an op. Why you want somebody to hate you so bad?
People they're born hating.
I'm a hater, but I'm not an op.
Kanye had that. You remember that Kanye line?
Hey, yeah,
haters have hater kids, and
they marry hater women and have hater kids.
Yep,
that's a fact.